Hello everybody, and welcome. This is the qualifying session for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix hosted here at the Imola circuit. We're so excited to bring this to you today, this circuit never having seen the light of day in Ultimate Virtual. Is a really exciting prospect to go to. It's got very fast straights and chicanes that the drivers will need to navigate, some hairpinny corners. This final double right-hander particularly a difficult one for drivers to navigate, but it's a great venue to race at, and drivers really enjoy it. We'll see who's set the early pace. It's Adrian on provisional pole position, interestingly enough, so he is doing well at the moment. The Indonesian man finished only I believe it was 6th position. Oh, we're going to get some light rain, just as we saw in Mugello. We might just get some rain as the drivers have only done one flying lap. Some may not even finish their flying lap before the rain starts rolling in. The conditions are changing. Drivers are coming in. Will Andri set pole position? Yes, he will, because he stayed out while all the rest came in for the intermediate tyres. Andries did not, and that may just have gifted him the pole position for BAV. These drivers would have been so much better off just finishing off that lap time. We've got a split of inters and wets, funnily enough, and the only way that Andries wouldn't take pole position, as he has now, because obviously their fastest lap times were all set on their out laps. The pit lap is a lot slower, and they'll be yet slower on their, sorry, that was their in lap. They'll be yet slower now on their out lap, and by the time they finish their out lap, the rain will be a falling. So fascinating there to see that. Andries comes in now. Kubo sets an unrepresentative lap time. That is the downside of these AI. They sometimes just make that wrong strategic call. We could see Andries take pole position by an absolutely massive margin here. This would be nearly 7/10 of a second he could take it by, assuming the track doesn't have time to dry back up. But while these drivers are dilly-dallying around on their wets, we'll actually see if anybody does improve on their first flying lap on the inters. Kubo does it. He goes fastest. That's remarkable. On the intermediates, he set a time faster than that of those on the wet, on the soft. Jesus, I need to get my words in order. What a lap from Kubo. He has gone over a second faster than third place man Antti, who I believe also improved. Now we're going to get drying conditions. Will the track actually dry up by the end of the qualifying session? Those who pit early for softs may just be massively rewarded. I'm not going to show any form of overview or anything at the moment, because this is fascinating. Sobel has now improved. He's gone up to third position, and he's dipped down below 28-second margin. He's on the wets on a low wet track, so you would think that the inter runners would be faster at the moment, but obviously those wets may just be that bit more durable. No, they're actually not. They have worn out just ever so slightly faster, or if not at a very similar rate still. Will Kubo be into the pit lane? He won't. Will Andries? No. Andrian, Aptly, Sobel, Abva is our first to go in and gamble, and this might just pay off exactly how he wants it to. With the lap time in mind, I think it's definitely a possibility that those who are leaving it an extra lap may just get round and just have time to do that flying lap before the clock ticks down to 0. But this has been absolutely fascinating to see Kubo hit the front on the intermediate tyre. What a great call that was from him. He's going to be into the pits now. He needs to be out of it by the time that clock ticks down to 27 seconds, otherwise he's not going to have time to get around and make that next lap time in. It's going to be really nip and tuck, because he gets a slow exit out of the pit lane just as it hits 27 seconds. Currently, it's Kubo on pole position. The man who you really need to watch further down is Abba. He's going to be on a flying lap while all the rest are not. So we're going to keep an eye on him, but in the final 10 seconds, will Kubo have the time we've seen Formula 1 and Italian Grand Prix having trouble reaching the line in time? We may just have that here, and Kubo will not set a lap time. What can Abva do though? He was the only man on a flying lap. Can he improve? Yes, he goes up to 4th position. What a great call it was by him and the WTEC team to come in a lap early, and those who said on intermediates also massively losing out there. We might have had other improvers. I believe Pappy was one of those to put on the tyres early, but he doesn't put in a great lap time. We'll have you the qualifying results right now. And after an absolutely topsy-turvy qualifying, Kubo will take pole position with a lap time that he set on the intermediate tyre. It could have been even faster for him, but he didn't make it to the line in time. and nor did anybody else running behind him, as he was front of the qualifying pack the entire time. So really interesting that they just got the strategy call wrong by only a few seconds. Abva called it early, he called it right. He starts on the second row, he'll be behind Sobel, standing alongside him, and Andres directly ahead. Goose will start 5th place. He'll be disappointed with his finish last time out in the European Grand Prix at Misano. He spent 4 tokens to only get, I think it was a 5th place finish. Rito will start up in 6th place, good for him. He needs to score at least a point today to stay in championship contention coming into the final round. Antti will start 7th ahead of Suicide, Andrin, and Fox rounds out the top 10. Vladinator will start ahead of Jaruni on row 6. Apple Amazing ahead of Ikolowski, then it's Pappy, Urist, Hetmenica, Pit Crew, Grandy, and Caddo starting from last position. We'll pull up the token spend now. Andres is spending 2 tokens starting on the front row. Sobel spending 2 tokens starting in 3rd. Kubo spending 4 tokens starting in 1st. You'd expect that from all of them. Apple Amazing spent 3 tokens, but where did he qualify? Only 13th. He's going to need a resurgence through the field, but we've seen it done before. Urist in Mugello took 5 laps to go from 14th position into the race lead. He'll want to start on the softs to make up as many positions as he can. Ampha spent 1 token, and with a great strategic call in qualifying, will start up in 4th place. That is WTEC's 3rd start from the 2nd row of the grid in 3 successive races. What fantastic qualifying form they've had recently. They need to make it count more often. Then we've got Pit Crew spending 2 tokens, qualifying in 18th place. He might have been one of those who didn't quite pit off that Inter, and that could really cost him in terms of lap time, or didn't get a good lap in at the beginning as well. Antti has spent 3 tokens. He will be starting up the grid in 7th position. He'll hope to make up a few positions from that, overtake the tokenless Rito, who will be trying not to start on the hards today because that has seen him drop like a stone from grid spots recently. Andrin spent 3 tokens. He starts in 9th. Pappy spent 4 tokens. He's going to start all the way down in 15th place, and his teammate Suicide spending 3 tokens starts up in 8th. We'll have to look at the championship standings today because there are a lot of things that can be decided here. So if you look at the drivers' standings, this is the main one that can be decided. Of course, in the constructors, it would take Thunder X, I believe, they'd have to score, I should have done the maths on this beforehand, 32 points. That would involve a win and at least a P6. And I don't think they're on for that today. But it's much more looking interesting in the team's standings. Grandy leads on 106 points. That is a 16-point lead over Hetmenica, 26 points over Rito. But obviously, if Rito doesn't score today, even if he wins with the fastest lap in Brazil, it would still, on a tiebreak, go to Grandy, who's won 3 races this season at La Castellet, and then also in Barcelona and Mugello. So we need other drivers who could potentially get themselves in. In fact, let's slide over the token at the same time. We'll have some multi-graphics going up. So Andres, remember, this is the 80 token is the cutoff point, assuming that Granny doesn't score today, which he probably won't. So you need to get 81 points. So Andres would need to score 22 points or more. That would mean winning the race for him. He'd have to win to stay in championship contention. Hetmenica, if Grandy doesn't score points, will stay in championship contention no matter what. Sobel, to stay in championship contention, would also need that race win. Kubo, to stay in championship contention, would also need that race win. Not the fastest lap he would be able to do just about without that, but would need a really good performance in the final race of the season in Monza. And then we've got other high spending drivers. Apple Amazing, what would he need to do? Okay, that's really interesting. I believe that Apple Amazing, at least after last race, is indeed out of the contention for the World Drivers' Championship. We've just been waiting and waiting and waiting all season long for him to finally get going, but it doesn't look like that's ever going to happen, because you need 54 points to still be in contention. Well, 55 really. I think Goose is just on the cusp there. And Aptly, having scored points in every single race so far this season, is part of that bottom 10 who are now out of contention. Then Abvert spends 1 token today. He is, of course, completely out of championship contention despite that race win early in the season. Pit Crew is also out of championship contention. Antti is... where is he? 12th, also out of championship contention. Andrew and Papi and Suicide all out of championship contention, as they were after Mugello even. So that is all I'm going to natter on about today. We've got the racing action coming right up. Here we go then. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. We're underway. Our pole sitter Kubo starts on the medium compound tyres, as does Andrews behind him. Sobel is going to look to get a good start on the softs. Can he try and forge his way past Andrews at the beginning? Yes, he can. Going into the second chicane there. Andrews will fight this back on the exit. Abva started on mediums. Goose looking for a good start on the soft compound tyre. Looking further back. Has anybody made some big moves up the positions? Papi Apple amazing starting on the hards. That's not the tyre you want to be starting on. Papi rightfully starting on the soft. He's going to be looking up to make some spots if he can. Sobel switches to the inside, outside, and then takes the lead of the race coming into the first turn here at Emilia, and he does take that right off Kubo on the medium compound tyre. Goosey has also passed the medium runners. Notably, Andries and Abva down now to 7th and 8th position. They've each respectively lost 4 or 5 positions off that start. Rito also lost a couple of spots. He's gained one of them back up. Now Jaruni Papi has gained 4. Apple amazing very much in this pack behind Cado Grandi, Uris, all fighting for it, and Menica has been somehow forced away from that pack. Front 3, now Andrian has made his way 6 positions up into 3rd place. Can he keep it around the outside of the hairpin? Yes, he can. And what a fantastic overtake that was by the Indonesian driver. He had a disappointing performance last time out. Not terrible, but would have looked to take some more points than I think just the 6 that he scored for Fuerza Roja, using those 3 tokens. And he's going to hope for that here. Anti, meanwhile, has had a really good run there. Gets past Sobel, and Anti from P7 on the grid has set the fastest lap on that last lap and shown it really in the racing action, because he's taken the lead of the race here in Imola. Fantastic start from the Finn, flying up the grid. Still got the 2nd, 3rd and 4th drivers as they were. Now Andrin getting his way past Kuba. Can he boost past Sobel? He uses a little bit of boost, a little bit and a little bit more, and he's basically out by the time he reaches the first chicane. He takes a bad line through there, and Sobel will get him right back. You see a lot of these chicanes, a lot of these corners are flat out, and that creates some interesting driving challenges for the driver, particularly those struggling on speed and turbo will be struggling here. Goose makes his way past Kubo. Suicide up in 4th position at the moment. Andrew's just closing down. He's in 7th at the minute. Abva in 8th. Jaruni. Then Rito's lost 4 positions. Papi still in 11th. He's going to make his way up into the top 10 now. And Pit Crew as well will make his way up into P11. A reminder of your token spenders today. Andres with 2, Sober with 2, Kubo with 4, Apple with 3, Abva with 1, Pit Crew with 2, Anti with 3. Andrew with 3, Papi with 4, and Suicide with 3. Papi Pop spending their final 7 tokens in this race. Obviously, no other races left to spend them in. Meanwhile, our double A front pack, Andrew at swap positions with Anti. The soft tyre really working well at the start of the race, and Andrew and Anti prosper, while Andres and Abva really struggle on that medium. Sobel still sits just in behind in 3rd position. He spent just 1 token last race, and it wasn't a good performance for him whatsoever. P8 at the end of the day. When push comes to shove, 4 points per token is not a terrible result, but it could have been more, particularly with an uncompetitive higher order in that race. A lot of Papi Pops, Fuerza Roja, Flying V Racing cars all up there to begin with. Yeah, it should have been a more convincing performance from the BFX driver as he looks to take the position of Andrin, but more generally looks to put BFX back in that World Constructors Championship contention. I think Sobel himself, barring a great result here today, may have to just count himself out of the Drivers' Championship with a recent form of Grandi, who has come in, as has Sobel and now Anti. They're both on the hard journey behind, may just attack, and he gets his way past into the chicane and makes his way up into 5th position against the cold tyres of Anti. Kubo has stayed out. This front 4 all still out there. Andrin taking the softs a lap or 2 further than people might have advised, and that is an interesting strategy, most definitely. They're about to lap Cado, in fact. The teammates not separated by much after 9 laps here even. Nearly a lap between them, but yeah, not much on track. Andrin now inherits the lead. Abva, then Anti, then Jaruni. Still up there in now 3rd position. Is it going to turn into 5th? It will. A poor exit from the hairpin there sinks him down a couple spots. Andrew behind will look to apply pressure. Sobel ahead is applying pressure to Anti. to the outside of the final 2 corners here in Emilia. He's going to take that 3rd position off Antti. Girouni, then Andrin, still your little pack there. Andrin looking to make his way past. It was a scrappy attempt into turn 1, and he did finally get that overtake just about done. Girouni now really going to start sliding off on those old medium tyres. Rito on the old hards as well, as in 7th place at the moment, but Suicide on fresher softs is just going to coast past coming into the chicane. That's a very simple textbook move from the Frenchman there. Further up, we've got Andries and Abva both pitting. That sees our race leader become Sobel, who has pitted and has made his strategy right so far and has been able to run away from these 2 hard runners, Antti and Andrian, that look really good at the beginning. But obviously the hard is a very difficult tyre, particularly at a track that is as flat out as this one is. You don't want to be on it for too long. Rito trying to fight Andries. I presume Andries might have just gone past him. Rito's still not into the pit lane, one of the only drivers to have not come in yet, and he'll stick it out another lap as well. Another driver to have not come in is Urist racing for Team Velocity. We've seen some decent performances from him in recent races. In Mugello, he very nearly won, barring a penultimate lap penalty that just saw him lose it out. Aplamazing and Vladne to go through as Urist sinks down into 16th position. Sobel still leads this front 4, barring Sobel, all pretty close together. Andrin with a bit of boost is going to try and make his way past Antti. Now, can he do it? He does. Antti now under pressure from the Frenchman behind. Can Suicide find a gap coming up to the outside of the hairpin? I think he got that move done before the corner, but then lost it after it because he just got a poor exit on those softs. Then now it really starting to experience some more wear. He might be into the pit lane this lap or in the next couple at least. Andres is behind. He's on much fresher medium tyres. He's going to barge his way through, and Suicide is going to stay out for the time being. Andres uses a bit of booster past him. Suicide is not using the plethora of boost that he does have now to get back past Mart for the time being. And this second down to 5th, 6th, 7th fight even. Kubo definitely still a part of this, which you'd expect him to be because he is spending 4 tokens and sort of to very much disappear at the race start for not much reason, which was bizarre that as well. I didn't really pay any attention to him, but he did very much drop out. Suicide is finally into the pit lane. The Pappy Pops driver spending 3 tokens a day is going to come out level with his teammates spending 4 tokens a day. Pappy has a good few laps left on that tyre, but the fight rages on for second place. Antti defending from Andrian and Andries, and this is really confusing to commentate, but Andrian in the Fuerza Roja does finally get through. Andries might try and move down the inside, doesn't quite yet. They're going to skim very close to that outside wall. Andrian has to try and defend, but he's got some lap traffic to negotiate. Andries also has to be careful of that, particularly Medica coming up soon into the hairpin. Andries makes a move. He's going to get forced back by Andrian, but he doesn't get quite the traction he needed there, and Andrian is going to now lose that spot to Antti. A very opportunistic move into the double right-hander. Antti does go through and immediately massively slides off the track. That was incredible. I don't know quite what caused that. He just looked to have completely lost traction. I don't think he was even hit off. Abfa is now going to get through. He's not even on that worn tyres, to be honest. He just very sharply went off the circuit. Abfa gets through. He's now into 4th place. He's on softs that have a couple laps left to go. Andrian just barges his way past his teammate for that lap. And leading still is Sobel, who will be in very soon off those mediums, but has had that great pleasure of not having to fight anyone over the course of the last stint. He's let them sort of sort things out among themselves, and I think that has definitely been the right approach to go with. We'll pop up the standings so you take a gander at for a second. So yeah, our championship leader ground here, poor performance last time out, but still done very well as of recent. As it stands, Sobel in the lead of the race would inherit 2nd place in the championship off Hetmenica, who's down in 17th place, and Rito is currently on track to score. Sorry, would inherit 3rd place off Rito. Actually, it'd be very close because Rito is in 9th place. I think he might be on 82, and Sobel currently without the fastest lap would be 83. So very nip and tuck there between teammates. We'll have a look as Sobel now does come into the pit lane. Andries will be in right behind him. So in fact, Andries did close up that gap right at the end there. He's now taken the harder compound of tyre once again. Sobel on the medium, Andres now on the hard. But he's made that work. He's made that stint extend for him, go long. He's done well with that, and he's caught back up to Sobel. Sobel, though, pleased that he wouldn't have had to do too much battling over the course of that, not lose too much time. Andrin now into the pit lane. You would have thought Andy would probably be in a lap ago. He is now finally in, just as Sobel caught him as well. Andrew will be very close to the race lead here, and in fact that overcut has worked really, really nicely for him. Sobel must have had a slow couple laps because he had that nice comfortable margin just a couple laps before coming in, and I guess he must have just lost that time in the overcut, as proved by Andrin, who is currently on course for Fuerza Roja's first ever race victory. Of course, they got a runners-up position at the hands of Caddo, who had a great race in Valencia, I think. Yeah. Where is he? Yeah, runner-up in Valencia. That's correct. I'm really sorry, but in fairness, this is the 7th race that I've simulated in the course of the last week. So just give me a break. Andrian, still going at it, still really pushing hard. He's a good lad out there. Sobel's going to really try and challenge him into the second chicane. Can Sobel get to the outside? It's a difficult place to find traction, but he does it. Really impressive from the BFX team, obviously, with that 9 grip really showing something. But Andrian's going to fight this back, and he might just force Sobel slightly onto the grass there. And he does really well. Gets the race lead right back out of the hands of the Dutchman. The other Dutchman right behind. It's a bit of a Dutch train at the minute. Andries and Andrian, the near namesakes. Andries and Sobel, the compatriots. A lot of links between these front lot, and Andries is going to go past his compatriot. He caught up to him late in that last stint. He's put on the hards this stint, and he's made his way past Sobel. He's going to now just shape up for the race leaders. Andrian versus Andries. Who can get it down into the double left-hander? Andries takes the inside switch to the outside and just has a really nice overspeed compared to that Fuerza Roja as we hit the halfway mark pretty much in this race. Fascinating battle going on. It's currently a Dutch driver 1-2 with Andrin just sitting in behind at the minute. Don't count out Sobel from anything here, but he does definitely need that first place. He needs that win to stay in title contention beyond the end of this race. Kubo currently sits in 4th place. Again, it's just been quite quiet from him. We're just waiting. I think he's waiting, in fact, because he did have that poor start, but he's just biding his time, and he's going to try and rise up as far as he can. Amazing. This is really incredible, actually. Let's take a look at this, because Amazing is spending 3 tokens here today. He's currently sat in 14th position. That's nowhere near good enough for him. He's, of course, very recently come in for some fresh tyres, but he is a lap down very nearly from that race leader as Andries comes to lap him now. It is going to be a lap down for Amazing, spending 3 tokens here. And Porsche, we're really disappointed to this end to the season, despite that Hetmanica win last time out in Misano. He did fantastically there, but Amazing looked to be the real potential as we see Andrin get through on Andries as they now lap Girouni, who was previously in that fight but is now down in 13th place. Great win last time out, and pit crew as well. That's amazing. He's down in 11th, outside of the points for a man spending, believe it is another 2 tokens today. Yeah, and those 2 tokens got him to the podium last time and look to be getting him absolutely nowhere at the moment, but it's a tight pack up and down the field, particularly just on those fringe points positions. It looked like for a very long time that Amazing would have this late charge. He had a lot of tokens left to spend. He had a lot of points to his name already, having scored points in every single race so far this season, being the only driver to have done that thus far. But it's just not quite materialised for him. It sort of, we were waiting for him to stop scoring those minor points and start taking some really major ones, and it just never quite came. He's actually not finished in the top 4 all season long, despite that very sturdy point scoring progress, and that is the reason he's not in the top 10 in the World Drivers' Championship, while you see drivers like Kubo, who have pretty much only been, and Antti is a great example, only has been in the points when he's been on the podium. Kubo pretty much only been in the points when he's won. Speaking of Antti, he's pitted for the wets. Heavy rain has been announced. He's got a Short run down to turn 1 with a still dry track. The rain has come out now, and this is not going to disadvantage this front lot too much. But Sobel does get a poor exit there. Andries isn't going to be able to catch him, and we're going to have a bit of pit chaos. Andries gets stuck behind his teammate. Oh, we've got Grandy, I think, stuck behind Andrin. He's not a front runner, definitely. But yeah, definitely some holding up in that pit lane there. We're going to have extended gaps on the exit. It's just the real cluster we see, particularly in this first sector. A lot of lapped cars just getting in the way of those front runners, and Andrin still looking really good. I think Fuerza Roja will have their hearts in their mouths at the moment, particularly for the fact that currently with Suicide in 6th position and Pappy down in 8th, that's only on course to be 12 points for Pappy Pops, 25 for Fuerza Roja. Not at all what you'd expect coming into this race. Fuerza spending just 3 tokens here in the hands of Andrian. Suicide spending 3, Pappy spending 4. The Fuerza is a slightly better car, of course, following those late developments, and that speed upgrade definitely is going to help around a track like this. But when you saw it, you know, obviously popping up the standings, Fuerza leading Pappy Pops by just 1 point. Pappy Pops literally 1 or 2 points away from, you know, putting themselves out of that relegation zone for the first time since Caddo really started to get things on a little earlier in the season. This rain is now going away, so we should see everyone come in on pretty much this lap as the race leader comes by the pit lane this time around. But yeah, not at all what you'd think, with Pappy Pops spending spending over double the number of tokens Fuerza is spending this race. You'd expect that 1 point gap to be reclawed by the Pappy Pops team, and it's not working out for them so far. They need to get higher up. They need to at least get something like that sort of 3rd and 4th positions, and that would get them more points than Fuerza Roja. That would put them in a better position coming into the tokenless season finale, where I cannot see either of those teams scoring points, to be totally honest, because their cars simply just aren't good enough. I mean, sure, there could be some surprises, especially in the qualifying. If they do well, anything could happen, but this will be pretty much the deciding race in terms of that relegation scrap, and Pappy Pops need to make their tokens count for actual points. Sobel has gotten a really good run on Andrin, who's going very aggressively defensive, but will leave the door open into the double right-hander. That does give him the better line, as Sobel had to go shallow, but he can't make the most of it. Into that second chicane, gets blocked off, and Andrin back down to 2nd place now. That means that currently he is scoring 18 points for Fuerza Roja, with Pappy Pops on course to score 14. It will be very, very close. That would be just a 5-point lead for Fuerza Roja, but any lead of any form would be absolutely massive for them. He does need to take into consideration, though, that if Anti has a poor stint here and drops behind both Pappy Pops cars, then it is 18 points scored by each team. Absolutely anything could happen. We've seen our front 3 quite a lot this race. It's Sobel, Andrin and Andries as it stands. Hard, medium, hard, and then the medium runner of Kubo, who's looking pretty in 4th position at the moment, still just taking his time to really get going in this race. He needs to make that break for the highest positions if he possibly can. Andries out there on the hards is actually making gains on Andrew and on the mediums, despite the fact their tyres are not very worn. Kubo is falling back that little bit. Anti starting to come under some pressure from Suicide, who's on the faster soft compound tyre. Both Pappy Pops have taken the soft. In Pappy's case, it's an attempt to get away from Abva, who's running the hard. Rito currently running in 9th. Those will be the couple of points that he would need to stay in championship contention. And Jaruni running in 10th place with Goose battling him for it. The FVRs need to be a little bit careful, because they have got Pit Crew and Aptly behind them, who are between them spending 5 tokens today. And it's amazing that the FVRs are spending no tokens and fighting for points. However, it's not great. It's not great for their cohesiveness and their ability to keep those point scoring positions, especially when they're nowhere near the car ahead. They need to settle for what they have at the moment. That would potentially just be that 1 point. This front 3 has had an accordion effect, because they are all now within about 7/10 of each other. Andrian still behind Sobels and still ahead of Andries as we head onto the final 11 laps of this Grand Prix. They are very close together once more. The medium, funnily enough, working better later into the stint. The hard, not quite as well, but they're just going to run line astern for a little bit here. Adrian will use a little bit of boost here and there, gets a pretty poor exit out through the hairpin, but Sobel didn't exactly nail it either, and you can see that Fuerza Roja in his wing mirrors. It's the fastest versus one of the slowest cars, the team that's been at the top for so long in the sport versus the bottom for so long in the sport, and Adrian puts out a real statement of intent with just 10 laps to go here at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, hosted here at the Imola circuit, or the Autodromo Enzo di Ferrari, there's Qatar Airways, something. If Adrian could just keep this going, Sobel gets a big moment coming out through the left hand. He gets a better run despite taking the inside line into the double right, and Adrian will once again go back up the inside, and they're just trading places. Coming onto the end of lap 42 here, Andres has dropped off the back of this fight, but Kubo is right on the back of him now. The medium runners really enjoying this section of the stint, having gotten rid of the rain now. Kubo gets his way up into third position. This would be 16 points and 16 crucial points for him as well, for Team Velocity particularly, because they've done so well so far this season. But Kubo currently sitting on 56 points, but need to get up to 81. And that would involve, of course, winning this race. He's now into the pit lane. Adrian has decided to stick it out for another lap relative to the hard runners, and honestly, why shouldn't he? Because if he's got the track position, he might as well not risk pitting and having rain completely screw his strategy. Suicide and Anti and Pappy are all in. Anti has dropped those positions, so it's currently looking to be 16 points scored by Pappy Pops Racing. There is a very fine line between a potential 25 points for Adrian, or 18 or 15, or even fewer than that if Kubo can get past him. But there's not a lot of laps left. He just needs to stick it out, and he will be the first ever Fuerza Roja driver to win a race. They scored their first points at an Italian track in Mugello last season at P8 for Ikolowski, now in the BAV team. Left this team towards the end of last season. And Adrian has come in, and he's you know, he's sort of disappointed earlier in the season, only 1 point until some recent rounds, only 1 point until pretty much Misano. But as we see him come into the pit lane and back out now, he's going to drop behind Kubo, who gets a fantastic undercut. He didn't look anywhere near getting that position, but that undercut that he's done by, I think it's 2 laps that he's done, just absolutely nailed it on his outlaps, and he's managed to bump himself all the way up from 4th to 1st position. Adrian will crucially also come out in second ahead of Sobel and Andres, because he took those mediums for exactly as long as you'd expect a hard tyre runner to take their tyres, and that's exactly what's happened. But Sobel will try and catch Adrian now. Can he go to the outside into the hairpin? Adrian will have the prized inside line, but he needs to reform a move. He takes a shallower line into the left-hander. Can he get a better exit through the double right? He closes up to the back of Sobel, coming into the chicane. They get to the double left-hander now. Kubo, all the while, has come from pretty much nowhere. He needs to pass his teammate and 2 W-Techs, all fighting over 14th, 15th, and I think Abra a lap up there. But Sobel and Adrian, Sobel now past the Indonesian man, and obviously that now leads to a position where Pappy Pops are scoring 15 points and Adrian also only scoring 15 points. If one of these drivers gets a fastest lap, that could massively change things. But Sobel makes his way past Kubo. We have just 3 laps left to go. Can Adrian make a move there? The W-Tech's really getting in the way, as we can see here. Ikolowski may also get in the way. Adrian threads the needle, has to overtake about 4 cars in the space of 2 corners, but does so. He's back up into second place, and Kubo, despite that undercut, is just losing the tyres a little bit. He's back down into third, and Fuerza Roja looking once again a little bit safer, but we need to keep our eye on things and how they progress further down the field. If Suicide gets passed by Anti, that could be game over for him. If he manages to catch Mart, that could be massive for him. 2 laps left to go here in Imola. Sobel still leading this race. It's been an absolute thriller. It's taken a while, maybe a slow burner, just taken a while for the race to warm up. Kubo is now back past Andrian in these back markers. The WTEC and Andrian's teammate Kado holds up Kubo. Will that be the crucial time as he doesn't hold up Andrian, but Kubo now going for the lead on Sobel. 1 lap to go and the front three are separated by 1/10 of a second. Kubo goes through, Andrian goes through, Sobel goes down into 3rd position. Kubo once again, after going down to 3rd place, will now lead again here in Imola, but Andrian gets the move back through, and Andrian might just be the first ever Fuerza Roja race winner if he can absolutely nail the end of this lap. It was a great overtake there, and it looks like he might have it secured. Sobel looks for a last minute move on Kubo, but on top of them all, Andrian will win for Fuerza Roja, sets the fastest lap of the race right at the end as well, and Sobel will take 2nd ahead of Kubo. Then Andries will take 4th. It's going to be Suicide in 5th, Anti in 6th, and Pappy will take home 7th place for Pappy Pops Racing. 26 points for Fuerza Roja and only 16 for Pappy Pops. With a tokenless race up next, they have a mountain to climb if they want to even try and stay up in Ultimate Virtual. Abba will take 8th position. It's a good result for him, spending just the 1 token. Rito will score those 2 points that he needed to stay within championship contention, and Goose will take the final points paying position. His teammate Jaruni right behind him. An encouraging performance from Flying V Racing as we head into the season finale. Pit Crew and Apple Amazing still very close there at the end. 12th and 13th, 5 tokens between them, but they couldn't make any of it count for points. Here are your final results. Andrian, after a heart-stopping final couple laps, will win and become the first ever race winner for Fuerza Roja, and that is a monumental moment because we see that happen, and we see Fuerza take 26 points, and that might just be all that they need, putting their advantage over Pappy Pops to 12 points in the standings, a nearly insurmountable amount unless Pappy Pops somehow get on the podium for the final race in Monza. Sobel will take 2nd, he easily could have won. Kubo will take 3rd, he easily could have won. Andrews takes 4th, he bottled towards the end of the race. He was in the fight for the podium and then sort of just stepped out of it. Suicide will take a very respectable 5th place for Pappy Pops Racing. Anti will take 6th and Pappy 7th, but having spent 7 tokens, only scoring 16 points in this race, Pappy Pops will be disappointed. There's no doubt about it, especially since this race looks to have finally sealed their fate. Abva will take 8th place for WTEC, 9th for Rito, and 10th for Goose. Then Charuni ahead of Pit Crew and Apley, Fox, then Eurus, Vladnator, Ekolowski, Kado, Hemenica, and our championship leader and 2nd place, Grandy and Het, finish in last and 2nd to last here in this race. How poetic. We'll have a look and see if anybody has been able to catch Grandy, because as it stands, who will have done well? Sobel took home 18 points. That will put him up to 76, but that's not within 26 points of Grandy. Sobel is out of championship contention. Kubo took 3rd place. That's 15 points, but that's only going to take him up to 71 points. Kubo is not in championship contention. Andries will take 12 points home for 4th place. That takes him up to 71 points. Andries is not in championship contention. Suicide and Pappy were already out of it, as was Anti-Ampha also out of it. Rito takes home 2 points. That is 82 points for him. He is 24 points off Grandy. He simply needs the race win in Monza, and that is something he can very, very much do, and absolutely take it and break the hearts of not only fans of Thunder X, but fans of the sport who don't want to see BFX win yet another title. This has been an amazing race, a really great ending, and sets up for a fantastic finale in Monza. I hope to see you there for it, but until then, bye bye.